The New Orleans Saints have hired their next head coach. It is defensive coordinator Dennis Allen. Was it the right hire? Why is it the right hire? What we know about Dennis Allen's past and what it means about his future. We got all that and a little bit of lagniappe for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? Welcome into another episode of Locked On Saints, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, your daily podcast covering the New Orleans Saints. As always, we are out here, and I am thanking you very much for making us your first listen of the day. Every day. Don't forget that we're free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube as well. I'm your host, Ross Jackson, at Ross Jackson Nola on Twitter, Canal Street Chronicles, Tuesdays on Locked On NFL, and every single Monday through Friday right here on Locked On Saints. We're still here all week at Radio Row in Los Angeles, and today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at GetUpside. Download the app for free from your app store. Get 25 cents back per gallon or more on your first fill up with that app by using the promo code touchdown. So as of Monday afternoon, it has been made official. The New Orleans Saints' next head coach will be Dennis Allen, defensive coordinator for the Saints since 2015. Has a long-standing history with the organization as well. And I've seen a lot of questions about whether or not it's the right hire for the New Orleans Saints. And I'm here to tell you that it absolutely is. If you've been following the breadcrumbs from the very beginning, General Manager Mickey Loomis told you that Dennis Allen was the next head coach of the New Orleans Saints days after Sean Payton retired. That's just simply the facts. You look at the criteria that was set out from the very beginning. Someone that is familiar with the New Orleans Saints culture and roster, and somebody that has head coaching experience. That's Dennis Allen for you. Now, there are a lot of qualified candidates that were there. They spent 8 hours talking with Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs, who would have been a phenomenal hire. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But I think there's a couple of different ways to look at the way that, and we have to do this, we have to re-examine the coaching, hiring, all of that across the NFL because it's mad problematic. It is a problem so far to where you're seeing these minority coaches getting these interviews but not getting the jobs, and then it forces you to wonder about the guy that did get the job and if he should have been the one or if there was a better candidate that was passed on for reasons that he shouldn't have been passed on. And I don't think that this is one of those cases. I think that Dennis Allen was the front runner from the very beginning, and it was always going to take somebody absolutely blowing the Saints away in order to be able to topple that. And I think we have to look at head coaching practices around the NFL two ways. The first of which, internal promotions. The second of which, external hires. This was an internal promotion situation. Somebody that has a long-standing history with the organization, 12 of the last 16 years alongside Sean Payton in different capacities, including assistant defensive line coach, secondary coach, defensive coordinator, now moving in to the head coaching spot. And we've always known that Dennis Allen was going to get another shot at head coach. We're going to be joined here in just a moment by your boy Q of Locked On Raiders, and he's going to talk to us about that 2012 to 2014 season in which Dennis Allen went 8 of 28 and why things might be different and should be expected to be different this time around. And a lot of it has to do with some of the things that are already in place in New Orleans. But before we even can begin to examine that, one of the things that we have to consider is whether or not this was simply the right hire and everything. I'm looking at these guys back here. They're setting up cameras. I would ask them for their opinion, but I don't think that they have one. So let me tell you mine. I think that adding Dennis Allen and promoting him up to the head coaching spot for the New Orleans Saints was the right move. Again, he met the criteria. He knows the New Orleans Saints system. He can maintain the winning formula for the Saints that they discovered in 2021, which was defense first. There are going to be a couple of big questions to answer. What's the rest of the roster going to look like? What's going to happen with Alvin Kamara with a continuously strange sort of situation with his arrest in Las Vegas? What's going to happen with Michael Thomas, who we do expect to be back with the New Orleans Saints in 2022? And biggest of all, what's going to happen at quarterback? And honestly, in that situation with Dennis Allen back in place, and again, following the breadcrumbs of what General Manager Mickey Loomis has talked about so far this entire offseason, you have to look at the idea of maintaining continuity. And if you're looking at the idea of maintaining continuity, then Jameis Winston is the guy that makes the most sense. But it's not just going to be Jameis Winston as an option. You might see some of these other quarterbacks out there that end up becoming available. Kyler Murray's running around scrubbing all of his social media from Arizona and scrubbing the Cardinals away from all of his social media. Aaron Rodgers is, doing all the things that he does out in Green Bay that we've talked about ad nauseum. You have Russell Wilson that could potentially hit the market. Derek Carr, somebody that Dennis Allen was the head coach of when they drafted Derek Carr and brought him in, and then the Oakland Raiders. There's a lot of opportunities for them to figure out and work out what that quarterback position is going to look like under Dennis Allen. But the fact of the matter is that they need a quarterback that's going to be able to run a system. They need a quarterback that's going to be able to run Pete Carmichael's system, right? I expect that Pete Carmichael will be the offensive coordinator, at least at this point. We'll see what happens as they move forward, but you now have a vacancy on the defensive coordinator spot as well that you'll have to figure out because you promoted your defensive coordinator up to head coach. So do you end up moving a guy like Ryan Nielsen from assistant head coach and defensive line coach over to DC? Do you promote a guy like Chris Richard, who's gotten 3 DC interviews so far with the Ravens, with the Steelers, and with the Colts, and he didn't get any of those jobs? Does he get the one in New Orleans? Or do you go outside? Do you bring in a Wink Martindale? Do you go out there and you bring in a Mike Zimmer? Do you go out there and grab Brian Flores, who still should have a job going into 2022, right? There's no reason for this guy to not be in the NFL, regardless of how many pages his complaint was. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He's a fantastic coach, and he should be in the NFL. So if he's going to be that guy, or whoever is going to be that guy, you're going to have a lot of different holes that are going to need to be filled amongst the rest of the coaching staff, potentially, right? You promote Ryan Nielsen, you have to fill that role. You promote Chris Richard, you have to fill that role. So there's a lot of different ways that this can all go. But the one thing that you know for sure at this point moving forward, the New Orleans Saints' next head coach is Dennis Allen. And is he going to be 8-28 over his first 36 starts? I'm not great at math. That's why I host podcasts instead. We don't know. We'll find out. But the idea here is to be able to maintain the winning culture of New Orleans, and the New Orleans Saints believe that Dennis Allen is going to be able to do that. Next, we're going to hear from your boy Q, host of Locked On Raiders, about that 8-28 tenure in Oakland and why he believes, your boy Q, that things will be different for Dennis Allen in New Orleans as their next head coach. We've got that and much more coming up for you as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints. But before we get to that, there is nothing more fun around Super Bowl season than getting in on a bunch of different player props, halftime show props. Are we going to see Alex Rodriguez? All these other weird things that you can find around the Super Bowl. And we're going to have a lot of information about different things to look out for, fun props, stuff like that over in the Locked On NFL podcast. But until then, if you want to check stuff out for yourself, make sure you head over to betonline.net. Betonline.net has you covered this season with more props, more lines, everything that you need more than ever before as football continues to the playoffs and with the Super Bowl just a week away at this point. And it's not just football that betonline.net can have you covered on. They've got up-to-the-minute information on pro and college hoops, as well as the NHL. Boxing, UFC, and real-time updated current games that you can get in on as well. So don't wait to take advantage of all the great offers that are available at betonline.net. Head over there today. It's BetOnline, where the game starts. And when you're done with that, I want to tell you about my favorite app that you can use as well. It's the GetUpside app. Don't waste any time. Head over to your App Store, your Google Play Store, wherever it is that you get your apps, and download the app for free, no catch, so that you can start saving money at the pump. I filled up here my vehicle here in Los Angeles earlier this week, $5.09 a gallon here in Los Angeles. If you're in the Los Angeles area, you want the GetUpside app because it's going to save you money at the pump. And when you download the app, don't forget to use the promo code TOUCHDOWN so that you can save 25 cents per gallon or more on your first fill up. You're just going to send it directly to an account where you can draw it. You can have it come out to your bank account. You can have it go to PayPal. You can get Amazon gift cards, whatever it is that you're looking for. You can go ahead and get it through the GetUpside app. So start saving money at the pump by getting the GetUpside app. And don't forget that promo code TOUCHDOWN so that you can start off by saving 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. Go and check it out. It's the GetUpside app. And again, don't forget that promo code TOUCHDOWN. All right, everybody, continuing on with another episode of Locked On Saints. Thanks, as always, making us your first listen of the day, every day. I am joined right now by the one, the only, your boy Q, Locked On Raiders, and so much else. We are actually here at Radio Row for the Super Bowl. He's here with Raider Nation Radio. He's out here with ESPN. And now you're here with Locked On Saints, my brother. Thank you so much for taking the time to come through, man.
Hey, man, when Ross Jackson calls you, man, you gotta pick up that phone, man. You know what I mean? If Ross Jackson's calling you, it's like, hey, Q, I need you on over here. Then I'm going to get on over here.
I appreciate
That's what
that,
I do.
man. All love, all love. And I'm so glad that you're here because New Orleans Saints have hired their next head coach, and it is Dennis Allen, who has a little bit of history with the Raiders, 8-28 over the course of a few seasons. So take me through a little bit of the Dennis Allen tenure in Oakland at that time. How did it get started? How did it go? And how did it come to an end?
Well, you know, he was Reggie McKenzie's first hire when Reggie took over as a GM, and this was shortly after Al Davis had passed away, and Hugh Jackson was the coach at that time, and Hugh Jackson went out and made that big trade for Carson Palmer, which I never thought was a good trade. Gave up a lot for a guy sitting on the couch, but I mean, that's what he needed to do. He felt like he needed to do that, and so he was very, as a matter of fact, I'm going to make all these different moves, and Reggie McKenzie's like, no, you're not. Matter of fact, you're fired. So he fired Hugh Jackson, and he brought in Dennis Allen. That was his first hire as a head coach. And unfortunately for Dennis Allen, I think he's a really good head coach. He was Denver's defensive coordinator at the time. I think he's a really good head coach, but he never had the chance, you know, because the Reggie McKenzie looked at the salary cap and said, this salary is out of whack. So we've got to cut this guy, and this guy. So, Ross, it left him with no talent. I mean, literally, like, you were one DB, I was another DB. You know what I mean? There was just
good news.
Right, exactly. I mean, there's just nothing he could do. And so he had to grin and bear it, you know, and then finally went overseas, and I can't remember who it was that they played, maybe Miami in Europe, and they just got the brakes beat off, and then they were going into a bye week, so they cut him and fired him. But I think he's good, and I like what he's done as a defensive coordinator. I've kind of always rooted for him because he was a Raiders head coach at one point, and the little red Sharpie hanging out the back of his visor, that thing was there then, it's there now. I mean, you know, he's a good dude. I think that they're going to get a good guy that probably learned from that situation as well. Yeah, you know what not to do and what to do, and obviously has a lot better organization than he did when he signed on with the Raiders. At that point, it was like, I want to be a head coach. This team has an opening. Okay, I'll take it.
So, in terms of improving, how do you feel when you look at Dennis Allen now versus when he was let go in 2014 with the Raiders? Do you feel like there is an improvement there in his experience with the New Orleans Saints?
I think so. I think from what I see from a distance is he puts his players in better position to succeed, you know, and it's more of what they do really well instead of this is what I want you to do. Right. You know, and I always feel like coaches get in a bad situation and they make a mistake when they are so hell-bent on it has to be my way. Look, if this guy doesn't do that very well, don't try to make him do it. Don't try to make a circle fit into a square. It doesn't work. I don't care how slick you think you are. It doesn't work, you know? And so I think when coaches evolve and start learning that, then that's where you succeed. And so I think that he has a good opportunity. Obviously, he was very well recommended by Sean Payton, and so that kind of tells you, hey, this guy has the confidence of the former head coach. So I think that he's going to do good there. And obviously the defense, in my opinion, has been one of the strongest units in the league as far as defense goes. So I think New Orleans will be in good hands.
Yeah, I think at this point New Orleans becomes a defensive team, especially with the big question mark at the quarterback spot. But I have to ask you, Dennis Allen was there when they drafted Derek Carr. What's it going to take to get Derek Carr out of Las Vegas?
Man, everyone wants Derek Carr except for Raider Nation. I try to tell this to Raider Nation all the time. Do you hear the words that are coming out of my mouth? Like, every team wants the guy, but the team that has the guy. I don't understand.
Yeah, so often the case in the NFL, unfortunately,
I guess so, but man, I'm sure he's sitting there thinking that too. Why does everyone else want me, but my own fans don't want me? But no, I mean, I don't think that he's going anywhere, but it's a new regime, so you never know. But he's got a very reasonable contract right now, $19 million with no guaranteed money. Something's got to change there.
Yeah, absolutely. Raiders, new head coach. Saints, new head coach. Lots to look forward to moving into and through the 2022 season to continue everything that's going on with the Las Vegas Raiders. Make sure you're checking out your boy Q over at Locked On Raiders. Q, absolute pleasure to have you here, man. Thanks for taking the time.
Yes, man. Thank you so much. I'm on camera now. This is special, man.
What's good?
What's good, camera? Camera, what up? What up, though? I'm a radio guy.
All right, y'all, that was your boy Q of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Make sure you go and check him out. And, of course, you can follow him on Twitter at yourboyq254 as well. Very grateful he took the time to come through, talk a little bit of Dennis Allen. We're not done talking about Dennis Allen either. Let's take a look at some of those other situations that the New Orleans Saints are going to have to deal with over the course of the offseason and how we feel about Dennis Allen being at the helm of it all, right? What is going to happen with the rest of this coaching staff? What is going to happen with these players? And what do we feel like is going to happen at the quarterback spot with Dennis Allen? We're going to to talk about all of it, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on what I think they should do. We'll talk about that and more as we continue on and wrap up today's episode of Locked On Saints. But before we get there, I want to tell you about our friends over at rockauto.com. I'm somebody that loves to work on my truck. It's a fun hobby, right? I'm not very good at it, but I like it. And so I do a lot of low-intensity things that I don't have to worry about changing brake pads, changing oil, all the other stuff. You can do all of this from home, do it yourself or professional, doesn't matter, and pay the exact same price by going over to rockauto.com. That's not the same situation going to these name brand big corporate shops that you can find right around the corner in the brick and mortar stores. You're paying a different price. You're paying more than those wholesale guys. You don't have to worry about that over at rockauto.com. And you can cut out the middleman. No waiting for somebody to disappear for 20 minutes just to come back and tell you that they have to order the part. Just order it yourself. Have it delivered directly to your door with non-contact delivery. You ain't got to worry about nothing. So go ahead and check them out over at rockauto.com. Don't forget, too, that they're a family business. Always want to be supporting family businesses. They've been at this for over 20 years, helping auto parts customers online. So go over to rockauto.com today. Check out all the parts, pieces, and accessories that they have for your car, truck, or vehicle. And don't forget to write Locked On in the How'd You Hear About Us section to let them know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, and all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. Let's get it, Who Dat Nation, wrapping up today's episode of Locked On Saints, and thanks as always for making us your first listen of the day. We are still out here in Los Angeles at Radio Row. If you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing all the hustle and bustle, everything going on behind me. I think these guys are still behind me setting up no, they have left. They have set up their camera. They are good. Applause, applause, applause. They're good. If you're listening, you're going to hear a little bit of background noise. Don't worry about it. It's just the hustle and bustle, all the good stuff going on all around the area here. So I'm very grateful to be here with you, and I'm very grateful to be talking about a finalized coaching hire for the New Orleans Saints. They have hired Dennis Allen, their former defensive coordinator, now head coach, to take over for 2022 moving forward. But how long is he going to be the head coach? Well, some of it is going to come down to the decisions that he and this team make to be able to try to maintain that winning culture going into 2022. Let's catalog some of those decisions. Of course, we're going to start at quarterback, right? What's going to be the decision at quarterback? We spoke a little bit earlier about all the different options that they have. Jameis Winston, do they go out there for, a Russell Wilson? Do they go after Derek Carr and try to reunite him with Dennis Allen, anything like that? I tend to think that the easiest and simplest solution for the New Orleans Saints is to try to kind of re-up what they already had last year. Jameis Winston was 14 touchdowns to 13 interceptions through his first 7 starts with the New Orleans Saints last year, and was playing really well in that Tampa Bay Buccaneers home game that the Saints would eventually win before he ended up hurt, that ACL injury that ended his season. You talk to anybody in the New Orleans Saints organization, you talk to any of the players, they're going to tell you that Jameis Winston was one of the favorite players that they worked with. In fact, just a few days ago, running back / wide receiver Ty Montgomery did a Q&A or an Ask Me Anything, and he was asked about the favorite teammate that he's ever had in his career. And we're talking about Ty Montgomery, who's played for the Green Bay Packers, for the Baltimore Ravens, for the New York Jets, the New Orleans Saints. He's been around a few different teams, and who was the one player that he brought up? Jameis Winston, mentioned that he was a hell of a teammate, as well as somebody that just simply has the passion. So that resonates, right? That means something. If this New Orleans Saints team is conditioning itself to maintain its culture, then I think Jameis Winston would be a big part of maintaining that. Now, Jameis should have a market this offseason depending upon how his ACL recovery goes, which is a big caveat for this entire conversation, right? If things just simply don't work out and the recovery doesn't go as planned or whatever it might be, then yeah, that's going to possibly pour some water on the fire, right? That's going to dump some ice on the situation. But if he's able to recover, if he's able to do what he needs to do throughout the rehabilitation process, which so far has looked great, right? We're seeing the videos come out, all this other stuff. So I think that would be the one that would make the most sense. The other one that would make the most sense is, of course, go after Russell Wilson, go after these big names, things like that. But probably it's going to be that middle tier of quarterbacks that's going to become available. Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, Kirk Cousins. I'm really not a fan of the last two. I wouldn't mind Derek Carr at all, but when it comes down to it, we'll see what it is that the New Orleans Saints are looking for. I still think that Jameis Winston is the simplest and most obvious solution moving forward throughout the offseason. If you want to retain the culture, retain the personnel, and that's something that the New Orleans Saints have always been big on. Their first priority every single offseason is, it's making sure that they have what they need at the personnel positions and maintaining their in-house free agents. That's where they've always started. The next piece is attracting those big free agents, right? Are you going to be able to get that wide receiver talent now that you don't have Sean Payton? What's the attraction for the New Orleans Saints for offensive players? It's got to be the last remaining piece of the triumvirate that runs the New Orleans Saints offense, that has been a part of developing that New Orleans Saints offense, that has had those 10 top 5 seasons, those 13 top 10 seasons as an offense. And that's Pete Carmichael. He's the last bastion when it comes to the previous era of New Orleans Saints football in terms of the offensive attack. It was Drew Brees, it was Sean Payton, it was Pete Carmichael. Pete Carmichael was the one that taught it, he was the one that installed it, he was the one that evolved it, he was the one that changed it, he was the one that innovated it, right? When there needed to be a change or there needed to be some innovation, Sean Payton relayed the vision, but Pete Carmichael executed the steps. And so I think that Pete Carmichael stepping into a potential play calling role, if he does remain with the team, we'll see what happens. There are going to be coaching changes. We'll see how that all goes. But if he steps into that play calling role, then he has to be the one that can sell it in those meetings with free agents. He has to be the one that can convince somebody that they have a clear vision with the New Orleans Saints offense. The thing that will never change in this new era of New Orleans Saints football is the way that they build their scheme, which is not about playing the style of football that they want. It's about maximizing the talent at the different positions and making sure that there are players that are able to get put in positions to succeed, right? They have always looked at their roster and said, okay, these are the players that fit the vision. Here's how they can best contribute, and here's how we put them in position to succeed, and that's how they've built their schemes. Expect that to remain the same moving into 2022, even with the head coaching change. No big change in mentality on the way when it comes to that. The last big piece around all of this is just going to be that defensive coordinator spot. The Saints have an opportunity to really hit a home run here. And they can do that by promoting from within, just like they did with Dennis Allen, or they could do that from hiring externally. And I almost wish that they would hire externally on this one. I understand the idea of maintaining cohesion, maintaining continuity, maintaining communication. I get it. You introduce a new person in there, they might bring in some new position coaches, some new assistant coaches, all that. I understand the risk. But if there's somebody that can sell that vision to Dennis Allen, Mickey Loomis, Gail Benson, Dennis Lauschka, all of these people that are going to be making those decisions, then I think that that's the route that you should be willing to go. And one of the people that I'm going to be watching very, very closely is still Mike Zimmer. Sean Payton's not there anymore. I understand. Mike Zimmer, Sean Payton have a fantastic relationship. He would have made a lot of sense if Dennis Allen would have gotten hired somewhere else, and then all of a sudden Sean Payton would have maintained or stayed with the New Orleans Saints. Then I think that Mike Zimmer would have been an absolute shoo-in for the Saints defensive coordinator job. But I still think that the Saints can be innovative, creative with that idea. Now, they might not put as much stock into the defensive coordinator position because they have a defensive head coach who can still call those defensive plays, right? Kind of the opposite of what Sean Payton was. Sean Payton was the offensive head coach that called the offensive plays, and he had a defensive coordinator in Dennis Allen that he trusted quite a bit. You could see defensive coordinator Dennis Allen call those, head coach now, defensive coach in Dennis Allen. Oof, boy, I lost all that. Dennis Allen calling those defensive plays, but then shifting over to somebody on the offensive side to call all of the plays, which would be Pete Carmichael. But still filling that defensive coordinator role is important because that's the guy that does all the installments. That's the person that evolves the defense if there's anything that they want to try. He's the one that teaches the defense, that runs the meetings, all of those things. So you still have to hit a bit of a home run here at the defensive coordinator spot. So get the quarterback right, add the weapons over on the offensive side, and keep the defense allow the defense to be in position to continue the dominance that it started to show last year. And all of a sudden, this team remains a winning team even without Sean Payton. But is Dennis Allen going to be able to do that? Are the New Orleans Saints going to be able to do that? It's a wait-and-see game at this point, but at least they have answered the big question, who will be the leader going into 2022? It's Dennis Allen. And if you want to know more about Dennis Allen, more going on around the New Orleans Saints, you know we have you taken care of here every Monday through Friday, 5 days a week on the Locked On Saints podcast. Coming up tomorrow, we're going to update you on all the new information around Alvin Kamara, what happened, what's happening, and what it could mean for his future with the New Orleans Saints. And, of course, we'll talk more about these coaching changes as they continue on, identify more potential defensive coordinator guys on the outside that could potentially come in, and talk about their fit as well. So we've got that coming up for you as we continue on with more and more episodes here all week at Super Bowl Radio Row of Locked On Saints. Thanks again for making us your first listen of the day. For your second back and listen, make sure you go and check out the Locked On Bets podcast. You heard your boy Q earlier. I know you loved him. You want to hear more of him. Locked On Bets is absolutely the place to hear from him. Him and handicapping expert Lee Sterling making you some money with all these Super Bowl props, everything going on throughout the week. So thanks as always for checking them out, and thanks as always for being here. Don't forget, for everything you need around the New Orleans Saints between these episodes, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Ross Jackson, NOLA. Hit me up. Let me know how the family's doing. Let me know how you're living. Let me know how you're momming them. And trust you, that nation. I'll holla at you.